The food and drink industry has evolved greatly due to technological advances and innovation, keeping pace with the growing consumer demand. But what is next on the horizon, and how do we maintain a workforce that can navigate what's to come? IFE, International Food and Drink Event, is the UK's largest event for product sourcing, and our reporter spoke to two of their speakers, Mecca Ibrahim, founder of Women in the Food Industry, and Charles Banks, co-founder of trend and foresight agency, The Food People.
Welcome, Charles and Mex. How has the food and drink industry evolved over recent decades?
Well, I've been in the food industry 30 years, and I would say the digitisation, the enablement of the internet, AI, technology in general has changed the way that we interact with food and drink, the way that we shop, the way that we buy, the way that we order. And the other would be the amount of knowledge, the amount of information that exists about food and drink so that we can make positive and empowered food and drink choices.
For me, I'd say that social media has been like one of the biggest changes that's happened to the food industry. We're now much more aware of the foods looking good when we go into a restaurant to buy it, and also how it's going to look on our social media feeds. And the restaurants and the food companies themselves are actually pandering to that and are producing food or lighting their restaurants in a way that makes social media easier.
Bex, how important is building a diverse and inclusive workforce within this sector?
Food itself is a very global product because we get ingredients from around the world, and therefore it makes sense for the people that are producing that food and selling that food to come from diverse places and also from diverse genders too. If we're not aware of the various people that are involved in the production of food, and we're not representing those in the ways that they should be, we'll have a very sort of stagnant food culture. Even despite the internet, we'll see it being led by the same players and the same giants and often the same genders. And that's something that I'm very, concerned about and want to represent.
And Charles, currently, what would you say are the top trends within the food and drink industry, and how can businesses make sure they're ready for them?
One is nostalgic and comforting foods that take us to past places and memories that have positive associations, particularly in these sort of recessionary influenced times. Another would be food products and services that allow consumers to be more proactive when it comes to their health and wellness choices. And of course, food and drink choices that drive towards sustainable and healthier food systems. So things like regenerative agriculture, circular food systems, and those business models that are starting to be proven and come through. I think the watchword for 24-25 is about being agile, really. It's about understanding where your consumers are on their journey against some of the bigger issues and challenges and opportunities in food and drink, meeting them at that point and then taking them on the journey. So it's about being agile and being in a place to adapt to thrive.
And with ultra-processed foods getting negative press, plant-based eating continues to trend. What's the forecast ahead when it comes to consumers' habits?
Yes, we're seeing definitely more people taking part in campaigns like Veganuary, where they're giving up dairy and poultry and meat. And that figure will continue to rise, and we'll see larger food companies pandering towards that and producing plant-based chickens and plant-based fish and plant-based meats. We're also seeing that the consumers are drinking more plant-based milk. 50% of the UK drink and buy plant-based milk, which is a figure that very much surprised me.
I mean, when it comes to ultra-processed foods, it's probably one of the most disruptive forces on the horizon when it comes to food and drink industry. Absolutely, there are some proven causal links between certain food types and ill health. But there's also an awful lot that we don't yet know, which are the biggest offending foods, why this happens, the role of hyperpalatable foods. But the thing that I think that really stands out to me is that the food industry is at the heart of the solution as we move towards better processing.
Would you say education and encouraging the next generation into the food and drink industry is key to fostering continuous innovation?
Education is 100% key. Our younger people are very good at accessing information when it's made available to them. They need to be wanting to cook food from scratch, because if they're cooking food from scratch, it's more enjoyable for starters, it's often cheaper, and it's a way of avoiding the dreaded ultra-processed foods that we've been talking about.
Future generations couldn't be more important when it comes to solving the biggest challenges in our food system. Our Food People Foundation does quite a lot of work with a couple of charities, Chefs in Schools and the Food Foundation, who work tirelessly to promote better food education, better food provision in schools. Food and drink is connected with so many of the challenges and opportunities that we see within wider society.
Mecca Ibrahim, Charles Banks, thank you both very much.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.